Welcome to episode 176 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I'm Chris Lord,
And I'm Cameron Dexter,
and we're back this week with some more Justice League. We're back to some remote recording here too. So,
Chris, I don't mean to like put you on the spot right now, but you sound exhausted.
Do I?
A little bit.
I kind of am, I suppose.
I don't mean to just like call you out on your low energy and like having me carry the podcast per usual. But I just want to like, how are you doing, Chris? Are you doing okay?
I mean, I'm doing fine. I'm tired. LA's insane right now. Can you does my voice at least sound like gravelly and sexy, or does it just sound tired?
It just sounds tired.
Oh, great. I mean, I am tired. A slight peek behind the curtain in case people couldn't figure it out already. We pre-recorded last week's episodes. We've had 2 weeks off, so it's always weird coming back. We're back to recording remotely. I'm recording an hour earlier than normal, and I didn't even bother to set up at my desk. I'm on my couch.
Yeah, that's fine. You're in my normal spot.
I'm in your normal spot. I have my duck feet slippers on and my Batman blanket, and I'm all cozied up here. I'm taking
Merry
this real
Christmas.
easy. Merry Christmas. Things are insane, but yes, I'm exhausted. How are you, Cameron?
Doing fine. As fine and dandy as I can be.
Oh, just fine and just dandy indeed. But yeah, we're into the Christmas season here. I have my tree up, covered in all my nerd ornaments. I have my two Batman stockings in front of my TV here.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've started to receive gifts from my parents and my family that are unwrapped and sitting under my tree, because why am I going to wrap them to just unwrap them myself?
Because you can have them wrapped via Amazon.
Yeah,
I don't know if they order them from Amazon. It's only like $3 extra.
No one really gives a fuck. We all know what we're getting anyways. So
that is true.
Yeah. There aren't really any surprises anymore when you're an adult when it comes to Christmas, so it's fine. So the gifts are just going to sit under the tree unwrapped for 3 more weeks.
Did I plug Klaus the other week?
No.
I don't think I have yet. Have I? Okay.
No, you haven't.
Well, surprise.
It's okay. You're having a pre-plug?
I'm having a pre-plug.
Yeah.
I don't just the idea of like no more surprises in Christmas. Klaus was a very nice surprise.
Oh, okay. I actually had a similar experience. I watched the new version of The Grinch, and I was pleasantly
the
surprised
Illumination
by it.
one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It's actually pretty cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, I mean, Illumination does put out good content, and I think I think they're just like under that, still under the Minion like dome, where people can't separate that like not every film is a Minion film.
Well, it doesn't.
Also,
yeah, I mean, it doesn't help when their intro logo is the Minions just rambling.
Yeah, and they're also the ones that would like hide Minions everywhere.
Yeah, they totally are. But yeah, no, it was surprisingly good. Look at that. Some surprisingly good Christmas content these days, even though they're not actual plugs. So
yeah.
But despite my best efforts to keep these fucking podcasts short and to kill news, there is news I suppose, must talk about this week.
Oh man, Chris, I'm honestly surprised I'm not as hoarse as I should be for how much I've been like screaming about the news that came out this week. I am livid.
So what we're referring to, because like we've said, we're going to try and keep news down to just things that are roughly in the purview of the podcast. And so this has to do with the upcoming DC/Warner Brothers slate, which was that in the shadow of Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman was kind of the tipping point. But starting with Wonder Woman and all the way through the remainder of 2021, every Warner Brothers film, including major tentpole releases, are getting a simultaneous day-and-date theatrical and HBO Max debut.
Yes. So this includes Dune, which for some reason is everyone's first film they mention.
Yeah, I think people are just the most surprised by that one because that, to me, of everything that's coming out, that's the one that I feel like I would most want to see in a theater.
Yes. Yeah. Dune, Suicide Squad, the new Tom and Jerry like hybrid film.
That was always going to be going to HBO Max, let's be honest.
Yeah, probably.
Space
Jam,
Space Jam.
the new Jam.
Matrix 4.
Matrix 4, which I honestly forgot was even a thing.
I know, right? Um, yeah, I mean this is very interest. There's a lot of interesting things about this. Um, I feel like you have much stronger opinions on this, though. So I'm gonna let you take
I'm
it
just
away.
like so frustrated that this. I mean, it. I am furious with Warner Brothers for my own personal reasons at the moment.
Yes.
But with this decision, it seems like another flailing move, like we've talked about before, that Warner is just kind of doing whatever they can to just like make sure that they're keeping up with Disney. And this is the first time they've kind of done a move like this without following Disney first.
Yeah, this is a huge move. No one's gone this far yet. Disney's been selectively picking stuff to do streaming, but no one's had the gall yet to say like everything is
Yeah,
going to streaming.
and the Disney shareholder meeting, the big shareholder meeting, is December 10th. So I'm sure whatever response we're going to get out from Disney is going to come out then.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't say it's an irresponsible move on Warner's part because it is kind of what they need to do to kind of survive right now. It's kind of like, you know, the entertainment industry is not getting any help. And it's frustrating to see how they're just going to like shoot the theater chains in the foot like that. And yeah, I did a little math on it too. Disney or HBO Max is like $15-16 a month.
Yeah, it's way more expensive than it should be.
Yes, absolutely it is. And currently, from the last time they did a public report, which was early to mid-October, they had 26 million users, which is higher than they were expecting.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
But of those 26, and also like I don't know how many of them are paying full price because like if you have like an AT&T service, you kind of get it for free. If you have a cable service, you get it for free. So I don't know how many of those are being paid. So at most with those, and they said there's only, of the 26 million, only 12 million are actually active. So I don't know if active means once a day, once a week, once a month.
Sure, yeah.
Who knows? But with the max cap being 26 million users, that means they're bringing in about $450 million a month. Which is like, it's not bad. That's
It's
basically the
not.
equivalent of putting out like a B movie every month.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's not irresponsible. Like it.
But that's not going to cover these like, you know, Dune is going to be a near $1 billion film, I would assume, unless it's a John Carter situation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the problem is that to this point, none of Denis Villeneuve's movies have actually really been big box office success, despite them all being really good. But I mean, you know, I think The Matrix was likely going to do pretty big business.
Yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman, as we've said before, is supposed to be $1 billion film.
Yeah, I would think of all of them, Wonder Woman would probably be the biggest.
Suicide Squad, I think, has a lot of energy behind it right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's an understandable move on their part. Like I have very mixed feelings about it. I'm happy that I'm not going to be put in a situation where I really want to see something and have to take the risk of going to a theater to go do that. Like that was my big frustration with Tenet, for example, which that's all definitely Tenet, yes, whatever. Still, it's coming out soon.
Give Christopher Nolan his younger brother.
This all does feel like a reaction to Tenet, that it just didn't do what they expected it to do because Nolan insisted it be in theaters because Nolan has lost touch with reality in so many levels.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad that we're not in this situation for the same reason that I was begrudgingly glad they pushed Bond, because Bond was the only movie that I would have taken the risk to go see in a theater.
Right.
There's literally nothing else. Like even I guess maybe Black Widow, just because I don't want to be behind on the MCU. And if The Mandalorian has shown us anything, it's that you have to be on that shit quick or things are going to get spoiled for you.
Oh, baby, yeah.
Yeah, right? I watch that now at like 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday before I go to work to make sure that I see it.
I have a friend that watches at midnight, and I have to tell her, I'm like, hey, just a reminder, I'm also not watching it at midnight. So, like, let me text you first so you know that I'm watching it.
Yeah. But, you know, it's like I'm glad that these movies are going to be more accessible. I'm concerned about the impact it'll have on the theater chains.
Yeah, because it's going to be bad. It's going to be very bad.
But look, here's like ultimately what's this speaks to is the fact that, and forgive me, people, for getting political here, but ultimately, it's something we've never done before. But ultimately, what this speaks to is the fact that as a country, the U.S. has fucked this up real bad. Because this is only for the United States. It's getting a normal theatrical distribution everywhere else in the world. As of right now.
And I don't remember if we said this up top. It's not solely going to HBO Max. It is having a concurrent release in theaters and HBO Max.
No, I did mention that. I think the reality is that most people are going to end up probably watching this on a streaming service rather than going into a theater, because there's a lot of places like LA where theaters aren't even reopened. Other places where they are, but people probably aren't going, which is the smart choice. But yeah, the rest of the world is getting this in a normal, all those movies in normal theatrical distribution. So there's one that we've just handled this so poorly that we aren't able to get to the point where we can go see a movie in a theater safely. But also every other country has figured out a way to support people and businesses so that they don't have to make decisions like this. Whereas we've made it a complete free-for-all, and everyone from just like a normal person who has a normal day-to-day job to these massive corporations have had to figure out a way to survive this rather than actually being supported. And that's ultimately what this speaks to, is that this is Warner Brothers' way of going like, well, we have no choice. We have to find a way to make this work. I was just surprised they did it all the way through 2021. Like all the way to the end.
As was I. If they did it through like up to summer, I think it would have been more fine.
Yeah.
Like if they would have done like 2 big movies, like give us Dune and give us, I don't know, Space Jam.
Yeah.
Not Tom and Jerry.
Right. Yeah.
It's gonna have like real weight.
No one cares about Tom and Jerry. But like it makes sense for Wonder Woman now for them to do it. I think we've talked about this before too. One of the last episodes, that now this is what everyone's gonna be watching on Christmas. Like I'm gonna be watching this before I watch Soul. I think probably the same.
Yeah, I know. I was having that conversation with my parents of like, oh, we're gonna watch Wonder Woman right after we open presents.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is something valuable to that. In a weird way, I think people are gonna have maybe an extra affinity for it because it's much needed superhero fun blockbuster fare at a time when everyone kind of wants that, and there will be a communal experience around it, individualized communal, but communal nonetheless. So it's not a bad thing. I was just surprised they went so far out, but
and also like the timing of it, as we mentioned before, when they announced the Wonder Woman release, they're doing this strategically right around Christmas.
Yeah,
because like this is the time. I imagine Disney Plus subscriptions and HBO Max subscriptions are going to be like the main presence of this year.
Oh, yeah.
And so even if they get, let's say 5 million new users from Christmas, that's probably way overestimate.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but, that's 15, 34, 60, 75 extra $1 million a month they're pulling in.
Yeah. And, to your point, it is strategic. They're trying to not only drive, I think, Christmas sales, but then also keep people on the platform. A lot of people, myself included, are too lazy to like go and cancel like services between things you want to watch on it. You're like, whatever, it's $15 a month. It's a sandwich. I'll just
that's one Chipotle meal.
Exactly. I'll just keep paying for it. And I think the idea is that they've been like, hey, like you're gonna get this now because you want Wonder Woman, but hey, you might as well just hold on to it because you're gonna be getting pretty regular content going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Disney did, and it worked incredibly well. Where I have friends that are still like, weren't we supposed to get Marvel stuff? I'm like, yeah, we were supposed to get Marvel stuff.
Yeah. And also, before people start to think that I'm being like really, really sympathetic to this like massive corporate conglomerate, there is a very cynical thing to factor in here as well, which you made reference to this. AT&T owns Warner Brothers.
Fucking.
So it's not too much of a surprise that a internet service provider would position their content company to push more things to a internet-based platform.
Yes, and with that note especially, and the other thing that's been driving me fucking nuts recently, is because HBO and Warner are owned by AT&T, they absorb AT&T's drama.
Mm-hmm.
And HBO Max has been out for 8-9 months now.
Something like that, yeah.
They're still not on any smart TV, or the majority of smart TVs they're not on. They're still not on Roku, and they're still not on Amazon Fire.
Yep.
They've just recently been on Apple TV. And other than that, you have to have like a specific AT&T thing to have it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? How do you expect? Like, I'm not going to watch Dune on my computer screen.
Yeah, I know.
One, it's very dirty, and I need to clean it.
It doesn't matter how much you clean it. It's not going to be clean enough. It's never going to be clean enough.
Yeah. And, like, that is so frustrating that they would set it up. And, like, God forbid am I going to watch it on my phone, you Quibi wannabe assholes.
I mean, Jeffrey Katzenberg thinks you should be watching it on your phone. So.
Jeffrey Katzenberg can fucking fall into the ocean.
Yeah, but beyond the fact that, this, is good for AT&T, just in terms of driving more people to be using an internet-based viewing system, there's also the thing you made reference to, which is that, if you're an AT&T internet user, then you get this for free, or you can get it for free, sort of thing, right? So it's like they position themselves in such a way of like, hey, do you want to see Wonder Woman? Do you want to see The Matrix 4? Great. Well, you can on this convenient platform. You can either pay us way too much amount of money per month, or hey, just get AT&T internet, and then you can basically get it for free.
Yeah.
It's not. It is ultimately like a not terrible decision that is clearly also being driven by massive corporate greed.
Yeah, and this is something I think I've mentioned on the podcast before. It's a conspiracy theory that I'll go down for a while. I think this is. It's not even conspiracy theory. It's just a theory. In my mind, this is a big move from the studios to weaken theater chains to the point of a buyout. And I expect in the next year or two to see Disney and Warner both put in a bid for AMC and Cinemark.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was necessarily like their intent, but I think it's definitely something they can look at as a potential benefit.
Yes.
Yeah. Because as we've discussed before, there are no longer rules preventing content creators from owning distribution platforms or vice versa. So, hey, you know what? I think ultimately this means we're just one step closer to a different kind of dystopia.
Yeah. And it's the conversation I brought up many a time where we're just going to fall into the same routine that we did with the arcades. And there's going to be like 2 big arcade scenes. You have your Dave and Buster's and your round ones. Mm-hmm. And then everything else is just like a very tiny fighting for its life kind of space.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be the Disney chain. It's going to be everywhere. And then the Warner chain is going to be most places. And they're going to have that one theater chain. It's like, hey, we're still here too. Like, don't you want to come and have like the real theater experience?
Yeah.
It's like, you only have skee ball. Why would I go there? It's like, well, now you can buy beer too. It's like, what? We can buy beer and play arcade games? What is this, some kind of barcade situation?
Yeah.
Barcades infuriate me. They're the worst of both worlds.
But I mean, I think barcades are also kind of what movie theaters are heading towards, right? It's like, the thing is, it's getting so much easier to get content at home. So the theaters are having to find more and more ways to quote unquote incentivize people to.
Yeah, they have to make it a luxury experience.
Yeah, to come to theaters, and then 2, to cover their costs. So it's now getting to the point where they're basically trying to make a movie theater a kind of a version of your living room, which ultimately then oftentimes compromises the experience of being able to see a movie without constant distraction all the time. Which
I was going to go the opposite route and just having the frustration of like going to see the movie with my uncle and he like pauses the big screen. It's like, so I have to go to the bathroom real quick. And then we walk into the bathroom and he's on his phone.
Yeah.
But Harry, come on. Like, I want to finish the movie.
feel like that's kind of what we're heading towards, where it's like the whole point of seeing it in a theater is ultimately at the end of the day, it's to see it on a big screen. And depending on the movie, sometimes you want the communal energy around it. But if more and more going to a movie means that you're getting distracted by someone being on their phone or eating or drinking or getting up to go get stuff all the time, like, to be honest, there's a lot of stuff on that Warner Brothers slate that I would kind of rather just see at home anyways. Like, I don't need to see it on a big screen.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, I agree with that. I mean, I'm a theater purist forever.
Yeah.
Like I moved to my current apartment location specifically because of its distance to a movie theater
Yes, I know.
across the street.
Literally across the street. Yes.
But there's some movie like In the Heights. In the Heights is coming out next year digitally. Like that's something I definitely want to see in theaters. Like that's something you need that communal energy for.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, if we're projecting on what we think will happen, which of course we're doing, it's all we love to do. Like, I think what's going to ultimately result from this is movies that there is a difference between seeing a movie in a theater and seeing it at home. Like, anything, there's not a lot of stuff that I've watched at home that I've been like, I felt like it was on par with seeing it in a theater, or like there's like a dissonance. My brain kind of decides like it assumes the effort isn't there as much as it would be if it were released in a theater. Like it sort of gets lumped in with a lot of like the really underproduced direct to Netflix movies we've seen for so many years, even if it's made at the sort of caliber that it could be better than that. And what I think is ultimately going to happen is like something like In the Heights. You're right. Like that's a movie I am excited about. I don't really know much about it, but it looks great. Great talent involved left and right. Seeing that theater, I would probably really like it. Seeing it at home, I'd probably be like, okay, that was fine. In the same way that anything else I see at home is going to be fine. And so then it's going to be a matter of, if that's people's reaction is always going to be, oh, this is fine. Why put in the effort to make it better than they could if it was just going to go to Netflix anyways?
That is absolutely a great point.
Why put in the money when you could put in 70% of the cost and still get the same feedback from people and ultimately the same revenue? So
exactly, that is a terrifying thought for the future of entertainment.
Yeah, which then just means that entertainment in general, I think, is just kind of get more and more middle of the road, and then the only really good stuff is going to be huge tentpole films or whatever the studio's willing to put money behind because it's Oscar-based films. So
right,
yeah.
Oof. I know. God, I'm depressed now.
I know. Why do we start off with this?
I know. I was gonna say though, like I know it's obviously not an option everywhere, and I don't imagine this being a possibility in the future because like it's definitely not worth their money in the end. But select theaters in Dallas, you can rent the theater out for $100 and watch whatever movie you want. But I also found out you can watch new movies because I guess there's still a new movie slate that's just like unknown to us in LA. And I looked it up and I was like very curious, like, okay, what are your new movies you can watch in a Cinemark right now? And it's just one film, Chris.
Which one is it?
Croods 2.
Hard pass.
It's an extra $50. So it's $150 to watch the new Croods movie, but you can watch it in the theater by yourself.
Hardest to passes on that. Don't need it. Never saw the first one. Don't care about the second one.
So Chris, I just spent $150.
Surprising no one. I mean, look, we'll kind of wrap this up with this quick little conversation, which is of the stuff that's coming up, what would you actually spend $150 either for yourself as like a gift to a few other people or, maybe distribute amongst a few to actually see?
I mean, honestly, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I think, if I had a few people to go see it with, like a handful.
Yeah, well, because like my aunt and uncle are also prolific theater goers, and they're also the kind of people that go once or twice a week when they have the opportunity.
Yeah,
and like absolutely for Christmas, I'm buying them a theater.
Yeah,
like I'll like, hey, like here's $300, go see 3 movies, see something, see 2 new things, or pick your 3 favorite films and have like a great date night.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because like I understand their pain so much. Like I hate this.
Yeah.
And having that opportunity is something that you really have to like take if it's there.
Yeah. So you do it for Wonder Woman. Anything else that's coming up that you'd be like, okay, I'd be willing to fork over the money for?
Oh God, Space Jam, clearly. No, actually, I don't think so. I think Space Jam I'm okay seeing on a small
Yeah, I'm
screen.
fine watching Space Jam on a small screen. Yeah.
But I mean, like it's not a new movie, but it's something that I've been thinking about because like I have two friends in Dallas, and we've been doing this slow burn Marvel race through
Mm.
quarantine,
Hmm.
where they hadn't seen any, and we just finished Ragnarok this week, so next week is Infinity War,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I kind of want to buy them tickets to see it in theaters so they can
Yeah.
understand like how good this is in theaters.
I mean, that would be amazing to get to see that in a movie theater
A crying teenage
without a crying
Spider-Man.
teenager, so upset that, spoiler alert, Peter Parker gets dusted and will totally be back within the next like 3 hours
On
of
his
screen time.
hands and knees
Yeah.
in the theater, weeping in
Oh my
in
God,
his
another
like
hero died.
custom made Spider-Man outfit where he
Yeah.
made his female friend slash girlfriend wear a Gwen Stacy costume that she did not feel comfortable in or
Yep.
look comfortable in.
Exactly. So you're really missing out on that, live teen angst. So
Yeah. God, what a great experience that was.
fucking hell.
What about you though? What would you pay the $100 to $150 for?
Bond, obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously. And if I mean the reality is an MCU film if they did it,
Yeah, Black Widow.
if okay, let me rephrase that. If I would probably still be okay watching an MCU film at home if I had to. Like, let me put it this way: if I can only see an MCU film in the theater, I would be willing to pay the money to go see it and not be behind.
Yes. That that
Yes.
is that is a good point.
Whereas I think the distinction there is with Bond, if it's coming to streaming and theaters, I would probably pay to go see it in a theater still
Hmm.
by myself with 5 martinis.
Yes. Because that is how you're supposed to watch movies in a theater now.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
by yourself with 5 martinis.
Yeah. I don't care if someone else is like clinking martini glass, I'll be pissed. If it's just me, I don't give a fuck.
I know that's such a weird like conundrum, right? Like when I don't get candy, because I normally do get candy, and
Yeah.
then like I'll be as quiet as I can. Like I'll make sure the plastic is off before the movie starts, and then I'll like make sure the box is open before the movie starts, just like you don't hear that like rustle. But
Mhm.
if I don't get candy and someone behind me has a box like has something, it is the most infuriating thing in the world.
Yeah. Because we're all hypocrites.
Yeah, just like fucking open the bag.
Yeah.
You're not being quiet.
We're all bloody hypocrites. Uh, all right. Well, I think we've talked this topic to death at this point.
Are we done with Tim Talk?
Yes.
Is that it? Can we go to plugs?
I know. Actually, you know what? Forget Justice League. Forget our plugs. Let's just call it here.
Yeah, I'm angry again.
Cameron's angry. I'm more tired. No. I insist. We're gonna keep powering through. We're gonna talk some Justice League this week because these are 2 episodes that I was very excited about. We are talking, of course, about Tabula Rasa parts 1 and 2, the introduction of Amazo.
Yes.
And I I remember really liking these episodes when they aired. And I still found them pretty enjoyable doing a rewatch here. Now, had you seen these before, Cameron?
Probably. I have no memory of them.
Okay.
I remember Amazo's episode in JLU.
Right. That's one of the
when
best.
he comes back.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is one of the best. Yeah, I don't remember because I think I don't remember how often these were replayed back in the day. I just remember when they aired, I watched them all when they came out.
Yeah.
And I remember liking this a lot. I think maybe because I didn't know who Amazo was, this weird character that shows up, who can absorb people's powers, kind of. And something I was really intrigued by that. But I mean, there's some really interesting kind of philosophical elements kind of this episode, which starting with the name, do you know what Tabula Rasa translates to? Or what's significant about that name?
Tootsie Roll.
Yes, exactly. It's an old-fashioned name for a Tootsie Roll. You can put any flavor you want on it, but only at Halloween time when they give you the grab bag with the vanilla and the cherry and the lime,
Oh, the cherry one's so good.
Cherry one's so good. They should have it all year round. But so Tabula Rasa essentially translates to blank slate. So I don't remember the
okay.
philosopher who originally kind of popularized this idea, but it's basically the idea that we are kind of born as blank slates, and our personalities are written onto us as we experience things over time. So if you want to break it down to the nature versus nurture argument, essentially, it is essentially focusing on the nurture side of things, where everything that we absorb over time. Now, I think the reality is fair to say that it's somewhere in the middle. Genetics obviously plays a big role in how we ultimately are shaped, but our experiences, are hugely defining. And so that idea, I think, is a really clever way to discuss kind of Amazo as a character. So, because ultimately what's happened in this episode is, Lex Luthor is once again defeated by the Justice League. He goes to Mercy for help. And I thought this is interesting that here we discover that he left LexCorp in her hands.
Yeah, and when we first meet her, I didn't even recognize that was Mercy.
Right, because we're so used to having her in the chauffeur outfit and the hat.
Yes, but when he kind of describes why he left her in charge, I think that was a lot. That felt extra sinister.
Yeah, because he just assumed that she would turn it back over to him.
Yeah, because as she put it, there's no one else in the world that he trusted enough to give it back when he was ready for it.
Yeah.
Except for his assistant.
Exactly.
His chauffeur.
Yes, his trusted confidant. So she's now running LexCorp, and he is specifically trying to find this guy, Professor Ivo, who we never actually meet over the course of the episode, because as soon as he gets to Ivo's house, he's dead.
And that seems to be, because if I remember correctly, that's also what happens in Young Justice.
I think
because
so.
I'm having it flipped, because Ivo has a nemesis who also makes androids. Do you remember who he is?
Remind me.
It is.
Oh, you were asking that as a question. I thought you were teeing me up to see if I knew. You don't know
Morrow.
either.
Morrow.
Oh, Tio Morrow.
Tio Morrow, that's it. I'm like, it's 2 letters.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I couldn't get past P.T. Barnum. And I'm like, it's not it.
I mean, I kind of would love to see a episode where Professor Ivo goes up against P.T. Barnum.
Yes, Tio Morrow is the one who invented Red Tornado.
Yes.
And those lines of androids.
Yeah. I mean, the DC is filled with like this whole stable of sort of generic evil professors. You have like Tio Morrow, you have Professor Ivo, you have Dr. Savannah. Like, they're all kind of indistinguishable to some degree. I feel like they're all just like bald and wearing a lab coat.
Yeah, they're no P.T. Barnum, that's for
sure.
They're
no P.T. Barnum, no.
That suave and magical voice.
Famous animal cruelty advocate P.T. Barnum.
Yep. But hey, he went to his daughter's ballet recital that one time.
So that's true. Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's what happens when you have Hugh Jackman play someone. They immediately become likable, even if in reality they were monsters.
Exactly.
So, same thing when you have Tom Hanks play Walt Disney.
Yep.
Yep.
This is an unnecessary tangent. You can cut it out if you want.
Probably
but it's something that I think you would enjoy, and it was very dumb. But Danny Elfman's house is up for sale right now.
Okay.
And so Architectural Digest just did a great video kind of walking through his house, and his centerpiece in his like first living room is an old monkey skeleton in like a glass jar. And I'm like, what kind of fucking P.T. Barnum bullshit is this? And then they explain how he got it, and it's the most it's the most dumb Hollywood story ever. But it was a gift from Tim Burton, because obviously given to him for scoring one of his films.
Yes.
And I'm like, why does anyone have a fucking monkey skeleton in their house as a centerpiece?
Other than Nicolas Cage.
Other than Nick Cage, that is true.
Which our friend and former guest of the show, CJ, sent me an Instagram post this week, and it was Nicolas Cage, I think, just walking down the street.
Yes.
Yeah, walking down the street.
Oh, it was the funniest photo.
Dressed like Scrooge McDuck.
Yes.
Except this version does not have a pool of money to swim in. So
he's getting it back.
Yeah.
Instead, instead of a vault pool, it's more like a kiddie pool of T-Rex skulls.
T-Rex skulls, exactly. Yeah, the thing everyone's always wanted. But yeah, so Lex goes off to search for Ivo and finds him dead, but he discovers that Ivo left behind this android named Amazo. And I mean, that's kind of the bulk of the episode. I mean, the rest of the 2 parts. I mean, really, that's like the rest of the 2 parts is Lex basically manipulating both Mercy and especially Amazo to try and take down the Justice League. But to me, like the most interesting about this is just Amazo as a concept and as a character. So I'm curious, how would you describe his powers, his abilities?
It's duplicating is kind of the word they used a couple times, but he can scan, find the greatest strengths. I guess not even just that, because he absorbs the kryptonite poisoning.
Yeah.
So his initial power is, I would say, absorption and adaptation.
Yeah, and
So he's
it's
adapting to his environment and he's adapting to the other person's fighting style as well, and almost their personality,
yeah.
as we see a couple times.
And I think it's the adaptation thing that's very interesting to me because I guess I would describe his powers like as some sort of molecular duplication sort of thing. It's kind of weird because he systematically encounters each of the Justice League and absorbs their powers one at a time. And they make reference to the fact that he gets a bit of their personality. So when he sees Hawkgirl, he absorbs her wings and her mace, and then her kind of approach to fighting. That he attacks her the way that she would attack.
Yeah,
and
very head on.
Yeah, and I think they even use some of Hawkgirl's like vocals over him. Either that, or they're having Robert Picardo, the voice actor for Amazo, like do an impersonation. But Amazo kind of grunts in the way the Hawkgirl grunts when they're fighting. So we get the sense that there's some personality involved in there too. So it's beyond just abilities because he also absorbs the mace and the capabilities of the mace.
Right.
But the personality comes through there, or like when he becomes the Flash, or he absorbs the Flash. He takes on a little bit of his lecherous side, a little bit. His let's go hit on this hot girl side. But what I think is interesting is he doesn't seem to initially evolve or adapt once he gets their abilities. It's almost like direct mimicry up to a point.
Right.
Like, so I think a good example is he absorbs GL's ring. And then he uses it the same way that John Stewart does, which is generally just using like blasts and walls and stuff like that.
Oh, no, because he makes a construct. He makes one construct.
What's the one construct that he makes?
When Flash is running towards him, he makes a ramp to the right, so Flash just runs off into a wall.
Okay, but
and he has now officially made one more construct than our good boy GL.
I would argue that is basically not really.
Are you saying a ramp is just a curved wall?
Yes, essentially, because that's all the GL does. He makes bubbles, like energy beams, and like walls, like basically flat planar surfaces. And a ramp is essentially just one of those. Like I think of a construct as like, I've never seen the Green Lantern movie, but I remember in the trailer, like at one point he creates like a minigun out of the GL construct.
Yes. Like he also makes an entire Hot Wheels track.
That's fantastic. Like that's what I think of. Like I think of a real world object with a little bit of either visual or mechanical complexity that is recreated using the lantern, the ring. That's what I think of as a construct. If it's just like zap zap or a wall, it doesn't count.
I think if we brought in Tony Hawk right now and you told him that a ramp is just a curved wall, he would have some words for you.
I think he would more or less agree with me.
I don't think he would.
It's certainly not a construct by any stretch. But, what's interesting is we talk about this a lot, that John doesn't make constructs. But I think we've kind of chalked it up to the idea that to him, that is the most efficient way that he approaches things, or at least that his ring is capable of doing constructs. He just chooses not to make them. So Amazo could make constructs, right? But he doesn't. And I don't know if it's because he doesn't know yet that he can. I think that's what they're going for here, right? Is that he has to learn for himself what he can and cannot do. And because he's...
Yeah, and we also don't know if he has an imagination.
Yeah.
Because like that is where the root of constructs come from, is your imagination. And just kind of forced through by willpower.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think because, he's described as being designed to evolve, but I would argue that he doesn't actually do any critical thinking really up until the second time Batman uses kryptonite on him.
Right.
You know, because he's been slowly going through and absorbing some of the powers of each member of the Justice League, and they're trying to keep Superman away, recognizing that, oh, if he gets Superman, like, we're fucked. And I thought there was a couple really clever moments in that. One is that Superman, like, rushes in and then immediately tries to blind Amazo by wrapping, like, steel around his face so he can't scan him and absorb his powers, which is, you know, again, let's throw some credit to Superman for occasionally actually being pretty smart and not just a big bruiser.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's not super successful. So Amazo, of course, does get Superman's powers. And that's kind of like the cliffhanger button. And then we pick up again, you know, the fight is going on. And then, of course, Batman swings in and Amazo scans him. And he kind of even criticizes him, like, you don't have any powers.
You're just human.
Yeah, you're just human. What's so special about you? And then, of course, Batman busts out the kryptonite block that he always
Money,
keeps on
bitch.
him. Yes.
He just throws $100 bill at him.
Yeah, initially we thought it was a block of kryptonite, but no, it's just a stack of hundies. But, you know, I love that, one, he always carries the kryptonite on him no matter what. I love, too, that I don't know if you caught this, but there's a little bit of the original Batman theme woven into the music at that moment.
Oh, I missed that.
Which I thought was really fantastic. But, you know, initially it works. And Amazo is, you know, taken by surprise because he's absorbed the weaknesses as well. And so he flees to get away. But the second time Batman busts out the kryptonite, Amazo just goes, but I can evolve. And it seems like he's now no longer immune to it. And he is now immune to it, excuse me. And I wasn't sure how that made sense, how that worked. I was curious if you had a take on why he is suddenly now no longer susceptible to kryptonite.
Yeah, so I'm imagining in how Amazo kind of classifies these powers as almost like he's making a new folder for all the people he's absorbing. So you have the Hawk Girl folder and the subfolders like Mace program and Wing program. And so he can turn those on and off when he wants.
Oh.
And then you have kind of the Superman folder that opens, and you have your laser vision, your super strength, your flight, and then you have like the kryptonite folder, and he just throws that away as his way of evolving and adapting.
Oh, okay. That actually does make a lot of sense because, you know, we've seen a similar thing happen with Parasite way back in Superman the Animated Series. But you're right, like, because Parasite's abilities are, we'll call them like more organic or genetic, he can't just turn them off and on. You're right, but Amazo, he has intelligence. That's a really good way of putting it, actually. Yeah, he can just decide, okay, well, I don't need this anymore, so I can just delete this.
Right, yeah. And then he can go in and alter the other folders. Like, what if he wants 4 wings instead of 2 when he activates Hawkgirl's power?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he has he's a program. In the end, I mean, they do a good job making him look organic and look almost alien.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we forget that he is just made of nanobots.
Yeah.
And they also only use that word once, which I think is something way more important they should start using.
They probably should.
Like, he's not a singular structure.
Yeah.
He is a component of millions and billions of nanobots.
That is a very good point, actually. Okay, so that then raises the question of, you know, when Lex talks about how he has that Iva put a kill switch in Amazo that he can just press, you know, to use against him. And at the point when Lex does use it, Amazo's head blows up and then it reforms. I'd assumed that was because he had absorbed Martian Manhunter's abilities to shapeshift. But if he were made of nanobots, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'd always have the ability to reform himself.
Yeah, so then what was the point of having the kill switch in there in the first place?
To trick Lex.
The trick Lex. Okay, yeah, okay, that doesn't make quite as much sense. But you're right, he was always a nanobot at the end of the day. But I think
because what the kill switch should have been was like an EMP and not an explosion.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
But God forbid we try and explain an EMP again.
I know. Well, you see, an EMP is like a nuclear bomb without the nuclear fallout.
But I don't quite understand. Like, but can my cell phone still work?
No, man. Your cell phone be destroyed.
Okay, but like, will I die?
Do you have a pacemaker?
No.
Then you're fine.
A plastic one.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't go down that route. But okay, so
because you would need something to like deconstruct the nanobots.
Yeah, exactly, to disable them. But okay, so I have another question for you then, because again, I think just the idea of Amazo is so interesting. So I think you are on a good point that he is actually kind of willfully picking and choosing what he wants, because he scans Batman and realizes he has no abilities, right? So I take it that then that means that Amazo dismissed Batman and didn't absorb anything because we have seen that he can absorb personalities. And if Amazo absorbed Batman's personality, which I imagine would also come along with, like, to some degree, his intellect and his analytical perspective, that would almost be more dangerous than any of the other powers, right?
Oh, my first thought was just like he absorbs Batman. He's like, that's how the stock market works.
I now understand the economy.
Yeah.
But, like, that would
He's
be
like, I still don't get why you're living in Gotham, Batman. I still don't get it.
right. Yeah. Why would you be here? But I think
But
I think absorbing Batman, or I think to some degree as well, Lex, if he actually absorbed their critical thinking, that would be incredibly dangerous. And I think he doesn't do that because when he first encounters Lex, he just mirrors his face to give us a sense of what his powers are. But I don't think he willfully absorbs anything there in the same way he does with Batman, right?
well, because here's my question for you. Because in that sense, we kind of get when he absorbs Manhunter. That's when he absorbs like his compassion.
I guess I took that more as it was just the little telepathy when he absorbs
Okay.
Manhunter. And so because he has telepathy, then he finally is able to read Lex's mind and understand that he's being manipulated.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. I read it as, because we have this whole subplot of Martian Manhunter doing fuck knows what in the forest after he forgets that he can turn off his mind reading power. I was not happy with that story. You said you want to talk
Okay,
about that
yeah.
more, and we'll get to it in a second.
Okay, yeah, I'll let you go down your path and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so he absorbs bits and pieces of each personality, and my question is why, when he absorbed Superman, I guess because there's just like too many new folders that appear with Superman, but like why didn't he also absorb his compassion?
It's
Of like, what if they accidentally shoot a building down and like Superman goes to save it, but Amazo is faster and he's the one that catches the building before it hits people. And that's when everyone's like, what is this guy?
yeah, it's a little bit unclear. I think ultimately I'm going to chalk that up to an oversight on the part of the writers on this. I think
It's not as funny to watch someone else be Superman as it is to watch someone else be Flash.
yeah, I don't know much about Amazo from the comics. Like, I know he has a very different look in the comics. He actually kind of looks like Namor, the Submariner.
That's right.
A little
Yeah.
bit like in Batman Under the Red Hood, the animated movie, he has like the classic Amazo look, and I think in Young Justice as well, he's got that look too, right? Isn't he a Young
Yeah.
Justice?
I'm trying to remember. I wish just fucking anytime I would type in Amazo, it wouldn't just lead me straight to fucking Amazon shit.
Corporate greed. But yeah, so the personality thing makes it a little bit muddled, right? Because you're right. It seems like when he scans Hawkgirl, he unintentionally absorbs her personality trait. Although I guess maybe you could say that was him absorbing her fighting method in particular. That when he scanned her, if he's able to extract certain pieces of their personality to absorb as well, he just focused on her ability to fight. And that kind of makes sense. And I guess that would then kind of make sense too by the time he gets to the Flash, he's maybe being a little more experimental about what he absorbs from people. So that maybe that now he's starting to take on their personality traits. But to your point then, if that's the case, if he's slowly taking on more and more willfully, you would think that when he absorbed Superman, he would take on his compassion as well.
Yes. And like there's always that argument you can have of like Superman is always holding back, and when he's fighting Amazo, if Amazo did absorb his power, then he should have technically outstrengthed Superman because he's always holding back, but you see them on even footing, so he did like kind of absorb his like passiveness.
Yeah.
But that's dumb.
It is kind of dumb. But so when all this Amazo stuff is happening, because like I said, the bulk of the plot is basically just that Lex is trying to destroy the Justice League so we can finally be free of them, in essence. And he's manipulating Amazo to do so. But the B plot in all of this is that to try and find Lex, Superman asks Martian Manhunter to do a citywide psychological or telepathic scan.
Which is just a horrible thing to ask somebody.
It
They're in
really
basically New
is.
York. They have multiple signs that they're in New York.
Yeah, well, they are in Metropolis, but the part of Metropolis that's clearly just ripping off Times Square.
Yeah. And like just like that's the worst place to start when you're trying to brain scan people.
Yes.
It's just asshole tourists.
Exactly. And people who are pissed off because asshole tourists are in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Manhunter does this telepathic sweep, and it is a shock to him because I guess he hasn't ever gone this far. I think his telepathy has been more point to point up to this point, and I guess the idea here is that when he opens his mind up that wide, he even says like it might be hard to put the genie back in the bottle, whatever weird idiom he uses that he probably shouldn't know because he's a Martian. But he can't just undo what he's absorbed instantly, and maybe part of it is that the shock of what he experiences is so profound that he can't focus enough to then rein in his abilities to get it to go away. But so he's just absorbing people left and right, and I should have written down some of the snippets because it's the most weirdly asinine things that are thrown out there as people's thoughts.
Yeah, I also wish I would have written some of them down because a lot of them were very stupid.
Yeah, I think the first ones we see is a couple on a date, and she's like, "Oh, does he actually even like me? I don't know. He doesn't say much." And his thoughts are, oh, "This girl will look good in vinyl. Who wears vinyl? Is this the 80s?"
Yes,
God
it
damn
is.
it.
Metropolis is constantly in the 80s.
Yeah, but it's stuff on that level, right? It's just really superficial
I wonder
stuff.
if that chicken's still okay in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. And Manhunter's big takeaway is that humanity is just really hateful and selfish. Yep.
I mean, yeah, if you start in America,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's true. But so he leaves to go off and collect his thoughts. He heads way out into the woods to try and isolate himself. And then
well, he doesn't. I wouldn't say collecting his thought. He leaves to get out of his own mind reading radius. So he's trying to find a place where there is no one else that he can accidentally mind read.
Exactly. And while he's out there, he encounters a group of.
Well, he strips and then he goes into his Martian form, and then he plays E.T. almost.
Wait, he plays E.T.?
Well, he does that thing that we're it's the lost character in the woods, and then you see the flashlights coming through, and to me it was almost like a Frankenstein / werewolf / ET moment, where it's people with the lanterns walking by. It's the monster's this way, and he's huddled by a rock in deep breath. He's like, how did they find me? It's that's how I read that situation. So I think that's what they might have been trying to rip off.
Actually, that's a good point. I think there might be an element of that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no need for it. That's what it was.
Yeah, him scurrying through the bushes surprisingly fast for a
no
little waddling
No one's looking for you. No one knows you're there.
No one knows you're there. But yeah, he encounters this search party trying to find a little girl who ran away. And he kind of just hovers around them for a surprisingly long amount of time before starting to see the hope in humanity that all these strangers essentially, are out there because, they're thinking about, oh, for my daughter, I'd be scared, or, there is still good in people. And so that inspires him to go and find the girl in 30 seconds, which he easily could do because he's a telepath who can phase through shit and fly.
Yeah.
But that, I guess so it's you're right. It is kind of a silly plot thread. But the reason I like it is that it does actually tie in very well, I think, thematically to what's going on in the rest of the episode, because what to me that is very effective B storytelling, because Amazo's kind of our point of view character in a lot of ways through this whole thing, right? A lot of time is spent around him. A lot of focus is on him, and it's all about him experiencing the world. I mean, he's kind of got a little bit of the Born Sexy Yesterday thing going on.
Hell yeah, he does.
Yeah. I mean, 10 feet tall and ripped as fuck. I think it
I say, Tabula Rasa means Tootsie Roll. He knows how to shake that. He knows how to shake that Tootsie Roll.
He knows how to shake that Tootsie Roll.
It's one of the many things he learned when he absorbed Flash.
Also, I think we'll set aside me being sexually attracted to a Android cartoon,
Nanobot.
a 10-foot tall nanobot cartoon. But he's got that. He's inexperienced, right? His only interaction with the world presumably has been Ivo, and he doesn't even fully understand the concept of death, right? He just like to him, Ivo's just asleep. I don't understand why isn't he coming back? How can we bring him back? So he's naive, he's inexperienced, and so he's discovering the world and discovering humanity for the first time. And Jean has kind of been constantly going on that journey as well, and is really focused here, right? But it's Jean opens himself up to reality, like up to humanity, and sees the worst in people, and has to rediscover the good before he can, jump back into the fight. And Amazo, his primary interactions are with Lex, and ultimately this episode is about Lex manipulating people, and it's about power and about how he has always had power, and over the course of his journey in Justice League, he has less and less as he goes along, right? He started out as, one of the most powerful, richest people in the world. He loses his company, and then he becomes a criminal mastermind, and then he loses all of his allies. He loses his suit. He's losing his health. He has very little left, and he has so few cards to play, but he still tries to manipulate people. And ultimately, the episode is about both Amazo and Mercy realizing that Lex has nothing left to offer them. They have no reason to either love him in Amazo's case or fear him in Mercy's case. And so I think that's why I like it, that when Martian Manhunter shows up and the League says, hey, keep your distance, we don't want him to absorb your abilities, he'll be unstoppable, because Martian Manhunter is a fucking god.
Yeah, he should be.
He really should be. Yeah. And then ultimately, Manhunter has to step in because everyone else has been defeated, and Manhunter has that last play of like, yeah, you have all my abilities, including my telepathy. And so then Amazo uses it to read Lex's mind and realizing Lex is manipulating him all along. And so I agree with you that the bulk of that plot is kind of weak, but I think the payoff makes it worth it at the end. I think that's a really clever way to basically take Amazo off the board, because they can't destroy him. He just realizes that his existence is more profound than anyone around him. There's nothing left to be offered by any of the League or by humanity, and so he chooses to leave. And I think that's a really clever way to wrap up his story arc here, rather than trying to destroy him.
Yes. No, yeah. When you explain it like that, it does feel better. I think they could have had a better introduction to that B plot. Because, like, coming from that perspective, yeah, Martian Manhunter has never spent time with normal humans. He's only been with kind of the best of the good and seen the worst of the bad. And so this is his first real time, and I'm sure he's interacted with humans in other episodes, and I just can't think of the times. But this is his first time, like, truly interacting with humans on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
And yeah, that does make sense that he would have that mentality of like, what are we doing this for? Like, why are we even trying to save these people?
Because he asked that question. It's like, what's the point of this? Like, humans are horrible people. Why bother trying to save them?
Yeah. But no, I guess when you describe it that way, fine. It's a fine B plot.
I think part of the reason I like this episode so much is that it does have a really strong, cohesive theme interwoven through all of it, from like the title to the way they handle Amazo to what's going on with Lex to the Martian Manhunter subplot. Like, I will also acknowledge like my ability to like recognize theme is fairly superficial. Like I can watch something that's supposed to be like deeply thematic and be like, I don't get it. What's going on here? And so like this one is like pretty surface level, but I think it adheres to a cohesive theme, I think, a lot more than other episodes do. And I think it sticks the landing in all the right places, whereas other times we've talked about throughout the DCU and including Justice League, which is some really good writing, sometimes you feel like they're going for something but don't quite land.
Yes. And it's something that I brought up last week or 2 weeks ago, but it's the idea of the writers constantly trying to make Martian Manhunter a detective when you still have Batman not doing fucking anything.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. I think they still don't quite know what to do with Manhunter. And I will at least give them credit here that when he's like temporarily taken off the table, it's for a reason that makes more sense that he just got hit with a laser blast, which he should be immune to.
Or fire.
Or fire.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, like, and I should have done some research ahead of time, but like I said, we recorded an hour earlier than normal, and I only just finished watching the episodes we recorded. Barely had time to do research, but I don't know how Amazo is normally perceived, but I know how he was shown in Under the Red Hood, for example. And my understanding is that other versions of Amazo, I think, are traditionally played more like villains.
Yes. Yeah. I was wrong before. He was in Young Justice.
Okay.
And he does have that Namor look, just like a little bit more mechanical.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think he has full pants instead of a Speedo. Shame.
He does have full pants.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I like the way they, I think that the writers here gave Amazo the Heart of Ice treatment in a lot of ways. Like, they took this character and they made him interesting and sympathetic. And like I said, I really like how it ends when his quote is, "None of you has anything to offer me now." And so he just like turns sparkly gold, stay golden pony boy, and he just up and leaves.
Yeah.
Gets the fuck out of there. And even Manhunter's comment is, he's going where gods belong, because I think a lot of this episode is also about him learning how to critically think and learning how to evolve. I don't think that the evolution doesn't happen naturally for him. I think it's something he has to choose to do.
Right.
And he ultimately chooses like to evolve to the point where he's like, fuck this. Why be here?
Yeah, and it does also go to your point, or go to the point that you started making with Manhunter. It's now Amazo has only met the best and worst of humanity.
Yeah.
It's either Lex or the Justice League, and his whole perception of them has been flipped. So his idea of good has been bad, and his idea of bad has been good. So he's like, you guys are fucking weird. I'm gonna go.
He's like,
I'm gonna go make my own space with blackjack and hookers.
Exactly. You know what? Forget the blackjack. Yeah, I think he's super interesting. And then, of course, this sets up what we referenced earlier, one of the best JLU episodes, The Return, when he comes back and he's after Lex. And they make an allusion to that is, when he comes back, he's going to be pissed.
Yeah. So with the Amazo, and again, this is a question that neither of us are qualified to answer.
Of course. But we're not qualified for anything we do. So,
that is true.
Yeah.
That is very true. He can replicate a Green Lantern ring and still use it as a ring, and not, because what I was expecting, because like when he makes the mace, it's not an nth metal mace; it's still a nanobot mace.
Right.
I was expecting the constructs to also be nanobots, but they're not. You see, they look like actual Green Lantern constructions.
Yeah.
So with that idea, and I think they might even bring this up in his return, can he just copy any? So he can just copy anything. So like if he fought Zatanna, could he just now be magic as well?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think his powers are very vague, and I think it falls into that very nebulous, like comic book science space. Yeah,
Okay.
That's my assumption. That's my understanding, is that since he's able to absorb intangible elements of these other characters, that he could totally just do magic.
So if he saw Carmandillo, could he also be Amazing Dillo?
Yes, he could. He absolutely would be. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, yeah. I was trying to think, because I wanted to pose the question to you at the beginning of like, what's the worst power he could absorb?
Carmandillo.
Carmandillo. Yeah, it's definitely Carmandillo.
Yeah, pretty much. Who has the worst powers in all the DCAU?
What's the one they always talk about on the Weekly Planet? Arm fall off boy.
Oh,
arm fall off guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, who I think is in the Suicide Squad, maybe.
Yes, because that's who everyone thinks Nathan Fillion is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, that might be the worst one. Yeah.
Well, actually, if you think about it, that would actually be the most dangerous one for him, because arm fall off man, he would just be losing nanobots.
Yeah.
And he can only replicate them for so long.
Exactly.
Until, like, if he just keeps pulling his arms off, then he loses his structural integrity. That is how you defeat Amazo.
That's
That
it.
is the one purpose of arm. What if Amazo is the villain of Suicide Squad and they have to absorb all the powers, and then it's finally Nathan Fillion's turn to finally show off what he's made of, and it's him and Polka Dot Man, and he keeps throwing polka dots, which makes him lose nanobots, and he keeps losing his arm, which makes him lose nanobots.
Yep. I'm here for it.
James Gunn, we've figured you out.
Also, that sounds like a James Gunn plotline.
It absolutely does.
Would watch. We'll watch anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I like I said, I really, really enjoy these. I think it's just there's some really interesting thematic stuff going on. And also it has a great button at the end too. When
I did love the button.
Yeah,
yes.
when Lex is back in prison and he calls Mercy for help and she just hangs up on him.
Mm-hmm.
As she should. And like also good for her. Good for her for like finally getting like a real proper life and not just constantly living in his shadow and having to be his chauffeur.
Exactly.
Because she always got like knocked out by Harley Quinn and like World's Finest, and like she always took the brunt of all this sort of stuff, and she had to put up with so much shit. And for her now to be like a top tier CEO who's actually doing a really good job at the company and doesn't have to live in Lex's shadow, honestly, good for her.
I honestly with Mercy, I always forget, because I think the first time I like understood who that character was in Young Justice, when she's more of a weapon than a person. And so I always forget when I see her in this that she doesn't have an arm cannon.
Nope, doesn't have an arm cannon. She's not an Amazon the way she is in some versions.
Yep,
she's just normal.
Yeah, no, she's great.
Just normal. Just she's like a jack of all trades, a Jill of all trades.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I was super excited for these, and can't wait for the return. It's gonna be so good.
Me too.
It's gonna be so good. Any other thoughts on these bad boys?
I had at the very beginning there were two weird things. When they're fighting Lex, Superman suddenly has the power to just repel his laser, which I've never seen him do before.
Oh yeah.
That was weird. And then then as Lex is escaping, he starts sinking a cruise ship. And I don't understand why everyone's trying to get off the cruise ship when Superman can just lift it out of the water and onto onto shore.
Which he then does.
Yeah, after we see like 6 or 7 boats
have escaped.
Yes. Which for that captain, I guess great call, because that was very quick on how many boats he got out there. Or it's a thing on Superman of how long does it take you to just lift this thing out of the water?
I know, right? This should be easy for you, but it's also impressive effort on the part of those the people on the ship that they got on those boats so quickly, considering that they were still dancing while a supervillain fight was happening above their heads.
Well, that is just normal there.
That's true. Honestly, you can't stop. This sort of shit happens all the time. You got to go about your normal life, all right?
Yeah, it's like when you're in LA and you're walking around and you see one of those yellow signs and they're filming somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's all right, I'll figure out a new path.
Yeah.
But if you're not from LA, you're oh, they're filming something right here. Are you telling Michael Douglas is somewhere in the neighborhood?
Very specific. That's what all the tourists are most excited about, is they're going to hopefully maybe bump into Michael Douglas somewhere.
I had just gotten an email that they were filming an episode of the Kablansky.
The Kaminsky Method.
The Kaminsky Method outside my building the other day.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm Michael Douglas is going to be here. That's kind of cool.
Oh, well, there you go.
And then did not leave my apartment.
Of course. Honestly, even if you did, you wouldn't see him probably.
No.
They're buried so far in, especially during COVID times. Shit.
But yeah, that's kind of it on my end.
All right.
I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
And you have changed my mind on the B plot.
Ha!
So I am even more into it.
You have absorbed my love of surface level themes.
Yes.
All right. Well, should we do some bad plugs and then wrap things up with some notes from friends here?
Let's do some plugs.
All right. What do you got to plug this week, Cameron? What are you plugging?
Yeah, so I've been doing my Christmas-a-thon.
Of course.
And I've been trying to do one Christmas movie a day.
Of course.
So I watched Klaus, as we talked about at the top of the episode,
yes.
and that is superb. I've watched it twice now.
Okay.
That's why I asked if I'd already plugged it.
You may have plugged it last year.
No, because I just watched it this year.
Oh, okay.
I think you may have plugged it last year if
No,
you've seen
I've
it.
never seen it.
Oh my God, watch it. It is like maybe top 5 modern Christmas movies.
Okay,
It is superb.
Yeah, it's on the a group of us are doing like Zoom Christmas movies. It's on the list. So
Okay, yeah, it's on Netflix.
Mhm.
With that, for you, and this is for you to shame me, even though you can't anymore because I've now seen it. I have now finally seen Die Hard.
You hadn't seen Die Hard?
I'd never seen Die Hard. I've seen Die Hard 4 and 5, but I'd never seen 1.
Okay, so you've seen the only non-Die Hard movies.
Exactly.
God damn it, Cameron. God damn it. Okay, well, here's the thing. You can skip Die Hard 2. You're not really missing much. Die Hard 3, though, fucking classic.
That's what I've heard. One of my other film friends also said that is the next one I have to watch.
Yeah, for me, the Die Hard movies, obviously, like Die Hard 1 is the classic. It's like the better film, but I prefer Die Hard 3 in the same way that Raiders of the Lost Ark is better than Last Crusade, but I prefer The Last Crusade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll plug, which is kind of the real plug.
Wait, hang on. We're not just going past this. What did you think of Die Hard?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah. So,
It was great.
Did it hold up for you? Like, I mean, this is like a touchstone film. It's a classic. Everyone talks about it all the time. Did it live up to its hype?
So I will say it definitely did. As someone who watched the majority of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where they make reference to it constantly, and like Bob's Burgers makes reference to it constantly.
Oh yeah.
There's so many films that reference this, but it wasn't in the same way of like when I watch like Shawshank for the first time or Godfather for the first time, where like those movies are copied scene for scene. Where like I felt like I had seen those movies in their entirety before I watched them.
Right.
Just through parody. But no one parodies the entire Die Hard.
Yeah, it's like people
you just kind of get specific moments. So it still felt like a new movie.
Okay, yeah. We've had so many versions of like Die Hard on a boat under siege, right? You know, like Die Hard somewhere. But you're right. The moments aren't aped so much as just the overall concept.
Yeah, and I it might have come before this, but this is I now assume is the origin of it, but that the trope of like being on the roof, tying yourself up with the fire hose and jumping off, I've seen referenced so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's a Die Hard thing.
Has anyone else done that?
I'm sure Tom Cruise must have done it in like his free time at some point.
Probably in his free time. Yeah, certainly. But yeah, like I think, okay, like, I guess he did do it in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. He like ties himself up.
Yes,
and he goes
because it's
along
too
the
short.
side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, but yeah, I think Die Hard was the first one to do it.
Yeah, that was when I'm like, oh, okay, I know this reference.
Yeah.
But no, I was shocked at how long it took them to like get to the villain.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
because you're like 30 minutes into the movie before there's any kind of like start of drama or hint of drama.
Yeah. Oh, but how good is Alan Rickman?
And I've been team Die Hard's not a Christmas movie without actually seeing Die Hard for so long. But and I haven't changed my mind. I still say it's not a Christmas movie. But I understand the argument now. Because I made the comparison of like, oh, if Die Hard's a Christmas movie just because it takes place during Christmas, why isn't like Harry Potter 1 a Christmas movie? Because it has a Christmas scene.
Yeah.
Or Harry Potter 3. But with how much they reference Christmas in the movie, I understand the argument.
Yeah, I mean, the end credits is done to let it snow. So
yes.
I think what you're hinting at is like, I think there's a distinction between a Christmas movie and a movie that there's an added benefit of watching at Christmas, right? Like, I think you can watch Die Hard any time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's and like no one's really going to judge you for watching Die Hard not at Christmas, but people will give you weird looks if you're watching like The Santa Claus or Elf not at Christmas.
Right. And I would say I'd make the same argument for Gremlins.
Yeah.
Because Gizmo is a Christmas present.
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, there's like movies that are set at Christmas that you could kind of watch anytime versus movies that really are just about Christmas.
Yes. You have year-long and seasonal Christmas films.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Die Hard, Batman Returns, Gremlins. I throw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in there as well.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3,
Iron Man
yeah.
3. Anything Shane Black's ever made, except for Predators
Pretty much.
or The Predator, which I think was at Halloween. Doesn't matter.
And then the last thing I'll plug, which is kind of the real plug, is I watched the new Saved by the Bell series on Peacock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's here's the thing. When I started it, I hated it. It's very weird characters. I don't know who it's for, because it's, and then as the show started, I realized who the audience is.
Okay.
But if you have nothing else to do, the show is pretty charming once you get into it. The characters are kind of fun.
Talk about damning with faint praise. If you have nothing else to do and have nothing else to watch, sure, go ahead and watch this thing, and you'll be mostly
but
entertained.
That's kind of what it is, and that's kind of how I did it. Like, I'd watched everything else on my list. As I mentioned to you before the episode, one of the great things about the show is the second leading female character is trans.
Yeah.
And she grew up being a male actor on Disney, who then made her transition and is now awesome in this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even like a very, very, very subtle plot thread where they talk about, in this version, everyone that goes to the Saved by the Bell school, Bayside High, they're like comedically rich
Mm-hmm.
and comedically like Hollywood. And so she makes the joke of like, oh yeah, when I had like my coming out party, MTV filmed it and made a 3-season show out of it. And that's the only time they ever reference it. And then it's gone. And I'm like, that's perfect. Like, that's as much reference as you need to something like this.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it's just normal and no one ever brings it up again.
Yeah.
Like that is pretty great. I guess the theme of the series is there's a lower funded school goes under because now Governor Zach Morris had cut the education budget.
Of course he did.
And so the way he remedied this is everyone that went to this low end school now gets to go to Bayside High, mm-hmm. the richest school in California.
Yeah.
And it's this like fun, like cross culture thing of seeing kind of these people who've always kind of struggled interact with the people who've never had to get off their throne to mm-hmm. do anything.
Yeah. And
they both kind of bring each other to this nice middle ground.
Oh, nice. I mean, that is an interesting concept, at least. So at least they're trying to do something clever with it.
Yeah. And like I said, when you meet the characters, they're infuriating because they're all such like bad tropes. But like once you get used to them, they are I enjoy them.
Okay.
It's only like 10 episodes. The principal is, what's his face? That actor that we love. He
Stanley
is
Tucci? I don't know.
Like, oh God, I wish it was the Tucci.
That actor that we love. I don't know.
I would never forget Tucci's name.
I feel like the Tucci is the most referenced actor on this show that has nothing to do with what we talk about. So I don't know who else you're referring to.
He is. He has 3 names. He plays the principal. John Michael Higgins.
Oh, okay. I was like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, so he plays the principal who's scared of the PTA.
Okay, I was gonna say because there's also like Mark Paul Gosselaar is another 3-name actor, but that's Zach Morris. So I don't know who you're.
Zach Morris, yes. No, John Michael Higgins plays the principal, and he is wonderful.
I mean, he's always good. He's always so good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well there you go. A semi-enthusiastic, semi-lackluster bat plug from Cameron for Saved by the Bell.
Yes. But what about you, Chris? What have you been watching?
So I watched this week Happiest Season on Hulu.
That's what I'm watching tonight. That's next on my list.
I really, really liked it. Yeah. So
Good.
It stars Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis as.
God, and I love her.
I know they're both so great.
I love Mackenzie Davis.
Yeah, as a couple, and they're going back home to Mackenzie Davis's family's house for Christmas. The reveal is that she has yet to come out to her family, so they have to pretend that they're not in a relationship; they're just roommates. Again, it's kind of a plot we've seen similar-ish before, but like I've never seen it done like in a Christmas movie like this, and it's really well made and it's really well written and very funny. There are definitely some moments that feel like a little bit contrived, but those are very much overshadowed, but just like the charm and the chemistry of the whole cast. So like, Dan Levy, who's obviously most famous for Schitt's Creek, plays the best friend, like the gay best friend, and he's great in every scene that he's in, just steals all of it. The supporting cast around them is amazing. So you get like Victor Garber as the dad, and one of my personal favorites, Mary Steenburgen as the mom, Alison Brie as one of the sisters. Like it's really sweet and very touching, and really funny as well. Like it's one of those handful of like direct to streaming movies that feels like it could have been put into a theater and would have felt the same. It breaks that like 80% threshold that I feel like a lot of those movies often hit. It's really, really good. Highly recommend it. So I'm glad you're gonna be watching it. So I recommend it to my family as well. Like, go watch this. You guys will like it. So I watched that this week, and then Cameron, I discovered something. So I have a question for you. What are my 2 favorite things to listen to?
Scores
and
other scores.
Hint: we're doing one right now.
Podcasts.
Guess what I discovered?
Is there a score podcast?
Yes, there is.
Does Michael Giacchino host it?
He does not. It is. But don't worry. Still in my wheelhouse of loves. It's hosted by 3 Australian guys.
Great.
And they are all very knowledgeable about music. So like one of them is an orchestra conductor. The other 2 are like academics, a lot about film, a lot about music. And so the podcast is called The Art of the Score. And I heard about it because it was referenced on James Bonding, of course.
Amazing.
And eventually I will get to an episode about the James Bond scores. But they do these really incredible deep dives. And the first 2 episodes are all about Indiana Jones. And then the 3rd episode is Jurassic Park. And then I listened to the 4th one, which was on Vertigo, Bernard Herrmann's score for Vertigo.
They have an episode on How to Train Your Dragon.
They do, yeah.
I'm going to listen to that one. And that's a great score.
And the thing is, like, they're all, it's academic in a lot of ways. Like, it's super well informed. Like, one of the guys literally has a piano in front of him and will play notes. And they'll reference, like, majors and minors and chords and all these other things that I kind of know what they're talking about out of context, but I'm not a music person. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on the conversation. They explain it in a way that even someone who's not musically well informed understands what they're referencing, because they play examples and they'll dive into, what the themes are and why the scores, are structured the way they are. So like a good example is for Indiana Jones, what's often referred to as like the Marion's theme, like the romance theme of all of it. Their whole point is that it's not actually used when Marion's on screen. It's used whenever Indy is thinking about Marion. So it's actually a score about how Indy sees that character, right? It's like his point of view on her rather than it just being about her. It's stuff like that. They'll dive into like why it's constructed and what the inspirations were and where you can see, similar work from the same composers in different places. It's so good. Like I'm just in my car driving around and just like squeeing because I'm listening to film scores and people nerding out over film scores, and I'm just beside myself with excitement. I found this almost 2 weeks ago, like right after we recorded, and it's been killing me that I haven't been able to plug it until now.
Oh no!
Because we pre-recorded an episode, but it is. Oh, it's so good.
No, I mean, they have a couple that I think I'd be really interested in.
Yeah.
3 episodes on Star Wars, Batman, Back to the Future. What was the last one on the bottom of this page? Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I'll definitely listen to that one.
Yeah, so they hit some pretty big franchises, and their analysis is just really, really interesting, and and it's also funny at times too. They have a good sense of humor, as you'd expect. So,
when's the last time you watched The Holiday?
I've never seen The Holiday.
Oh, okay. You should watch The Holiday.
Okay.
So Jack Black plays a film composer.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's a shot where him and Kate Winslet are walking through a Blockbuster, and it's him singing the scores to the movies as they walk by.
Oh my God.
And I watched it last night with my mom because it's her favorite Christmas movie. And I paused and I looked at her and I said, "This is what talking to Chris is like all the time."
I mean, I have to admit, when I'm listening to it, there are times when I feel very smug. Not that I'm ever far from feeling smug, to be honest.
Right.
But you know, for example, like they'll play like a piece of John Williams music from Jurassic Park, and then they'll be like, okay, now like this kind of sound has been in a few other places. Let me play some examples and see if you can place them. And you know, he plays a couple. I'm like, okay, I can spot that. I can spot that. And he plays one. I'm like, ooh, I think that's Bernard Herrmann's score from Psycho. And they're like, and this was Bernard Herrmann's score from Psycho. I'm like, yes. Oh God, it makes me so happy. I mean,
Good.
look, it's no surprise that my top artist of the year was Michael Giacchino. I think 2 years in a row, if I recall.
No, last year was John Williams.
Was it?
Yes.
I know. I thought 2 years ago was John Williams and last year was Giacchino.
Oh, maybe it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, but you know, I'm very proud of the fact that once again, I'm in the top 0.05% of listeners of Michael Giacchino's work.
I am very ashamed. I was in the 0.01% of Emoji Heaps listeners.
I'm not too surprised, but I mean,
just because of that stupid Harry Potter soundtrack.
Yeah, but you love that soundtrack, so it's fine.
I love it so much. Yeah. It's what I listen to when I write. It's what I listen to when I need to calm down.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not. I would never judge you for loving.
No, I don't.
A score.
It's not something I feel judged on. Yeah. It's just something like I wanted to like take out my like calming playlist from the equation of what are my top listen to music.
Well, you know what? This has been a year that needs good calming playlists.
Yeah.
I mean,
literally the first 5, like my top 5 songs are the first 5 songs of a playlist I have called Calm the Fuck Down.
Yeah, exactly. It makes perfect sense. I mean, my top song of the year was the Panic at the Disco cover of Into the Unknown.
I was very surprised by that one.
I love that song.
Apparently.
Really love it.
No, I would task you to watch The Holiday this week.
All right. I'll put it on my list.
Yeah, because half of it is just like Hollywood jack-off material.
I love that.
Because Cameron Diaz is like the top trailer editor in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. That's such a movie job. Like, obviously that is someone's job in real life.
Yeah, like, I know plenty of people who cut trailers.
Yeah. Do they look like Cameron Diaz?
All of them.
All of them.
I mean, I've cut TV spots. It's not and they make it look like, because they give her this like fabulous like hills home.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I had to tell my parents, I'm like, trailer editors do not make this much money.
No.
Not even close to this much money.
Although, when did that movie come out? Early 2000s?
Yeah, like 2006.
Yeah, you probably could have bought a house like that back then.
I don't know. This is like a multi-million-dollar house.
Okay, then maybe not quite that far. But yeah, you could make a decent living. Your money went somewhere back then.
That is true. Yeah. That is true.
All right. Well, actually, along those lines, should we get into some notes from friends here?
Let's do some notes from friends.
Yeah, so we have some responses to your questions from the last few weeks. So you're talking about the holiday, and we got some responses about people's favorite comfort movies.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, you know, Maddie Washburn, the great Maddie Washburn, wrote in to say that The Muppets and I Love You Man are two of his favorites. Those are good go-to ones. And he just rewatched I Love You Man and was talking about how great it is.
I need to rewatch I Love You. When I watched it the first time, I couldn't get into it.
Really?
I like something with the comedy, it just didn't click with me when I first watched it. And it made me very uncomfortable.
Made you uncomfortable?
So I know, and I don't know why.
I mean, there is an element of like cringe humor in there.
Yes, and I'm still not a big fan of cringe humor.
Yeah.
But I do want to give that movie another try, because like I love Jason Segel, and I love
Jason Segel.
Segel, thank you, not Steven Seagal.
Yes,
Jason Segel, and obviously Paul Rudd is the people's champion.
Yeah, Paul Rudd, the most missed man in the world.
Yes,
if we all die. But no, great shouts on those. Ashley Clark wrote in and said that some of hers are Anne of Green Gables, the miniseries, which I have not seen. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings, and then, you know, some of her favorite like black and white movies that she grew up with. So His Girl Friday, His Favorite Wife, my favorite Casablanca, My Man Godfrey, The Thin Man, Philadelphia Story, It Happened One Night, and then also Beatos when she wants to take a nap.
It's a good one.
It's a very good one.
Great score.
No, yeah, great choices here, especially from some of those old movies. I mean, His Girl Friday and It Happened One Night are like the proto rom-coms. They're amazing if you haven't seen them. No, so great list there. And then Jake, aka the Overvoid on Twitter, said that one is he listens to us, which is very, very sweet.
That is sweet.
Yes. Also, I'm sorry. Uh,
I don't know how I'm very comforting.
I know. I think we have decent podcast voice. Maybe that's it.
I mean, that's a thought.
Or we're just
I don't
really
think I have
good
a
to
good
listen
voice.
to fall asleep. Maybe that's it. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
just listening to us just rant about stuff. But that, and then Call Me Kevin and RT Gamer, which I think are maybe YouTube channels, like gamer YouTube channels I wasn't familiar with. And then Spider-Verse, which is
Amazing. Yeah.
one of the best films the last few years. And then anything from Lonely Island, which is always good.
Was Love Island?
Lonely Island. Love Island. How
Lonely
dare you,
Island.
sir? No.
Sorry, I misheard. And that's why I asked in a confused voice.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
No.
I tried to sleep to Love Island once, and I left... Like, I had to stop halfway through because I'm like, this is so frustrating.
I can't. I can't bring myself to watch anything where they have to create obstacles for straight people to be together.
Yeah.
Some of us just struggle to be together because we're in the closet for most of our lives. Like, shut the fuck up. None of this like, oh, love is blind. They get married for the first time of never having seen each other. When I'm like, I really hope that someone doesn't overturn a Supreme Court ruling so I can't get married anymore. Thank you very much, motherfuckers.
Right. But hey, I mean, we had that one show, Too Hot to Handle, this year.
I also
about like making straight people keep it in their pants and how hard that is.
I also just don't. I mean, that was kind of funny, but I just also
that was, Blue Balls the series.
Exactly. I also just refuse to watch reality TV for the most part. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
You're saving yourself a lot of time.
Exactly. And then we got some responses about what additional DCAU seasons we would like. So,
I forgot about that question.
Yeah, so Maddie wrote in, and as he pointed out in his message, unsurprisingly, he said
we don't care about Zeta.
He said Zeta, but he did say that he would want to see a Zeta where it was an extension or like more in line with what the original pitch was, which was meant to be even darker than Batman Beyond, which makes sense because that character should be in a dark story in a dark universe because he's an assassin that impersonates people.
Yes.
But so it's that, and also he reminded us, and so I'm going to throw it out to the audience as well, that they have a really good interview with Bob Goodman, the creator of Zeta, that they did as part of the 24-hour live stream that we also joined in on. And he talks about what seasons 3 and 4 he would have liked to have seen out of the show. So that's also kind of a pseudo plug thrown in there to go check out that video. Okay. And then Jake also written in to say that he would have wanted a JLU season focusing on the near apocalypse of 2009, which is referenced sporadically throughout the DCAU. So, which I think involved Ra's al Ghul, if I recall. I forget when it's referenced, but I think
we'll get there.
I feel like I think the Watchtower Database guys have either hinted at tackling that story or have tackled that story to some degree in their legacy comics, the DCAU legacy. So another pseudo plug thrown in there for that too. So yeah, and I know there were more, and I apologize because I went back and tried to find more messages because I hadn't really written them down for the last 2 weeks and we haven't been recording. So if I missed you, I apologize, and you can write in to tell me that I missed, and I'll probably miss that as well. So.
Yes. I take no fault. This is all your problem.
Exactly. Cameron just avoids responsibility and thus avoids blame like any smart man would. So,
exactly.
Yeah. But I think that does it for us this week. We will be back next week with something dreams. It's
Field of Dreams?
Field of Dreams. Sorry, Kevin Costner. No, Only a Dream. Only a Dream with Dr. Destiny. So that I remember that being pretty good, I think. So that'll be good.
Dr. Destiny.
Dr. Destiny, yeah. He kind of looks like a combination of Dr. Doom and Skeletor. If I recall.
Okay.
Yeah, but that will be next week. But until then, if you've got thoughts on these episodes or if you want to answer some of Cameron's old questions, we forgoed one this week in favor of doing some news, but they'll be back next week.
A little bit of news.
A little bit of news, yes. Only 30 minutes of news. We'll be back next week. You can find us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail. You can
Yes.
find me at Lordifor on Twitter and Instagram. And on Instagram, I'm doing a Lego Star Wars Advent calendar every day. So you can get some.
They're very cute.
Thank you. Yes, you can get some little bits of that there. Cameron, where can they find you?
If you want to see my art, you can find that at Cameron.Dexter. And if you want to see my face, which has not changed since March, you can find that at CamDexter_adventures.
Boom, boom, boom. All right. Well, until then, everyone, thank you for listening. And, stay safe out there and happy early holidays.
Yes. Merry early Christmas.
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah. Merry Kwanzaa.
Yes.
Happy Festivus.
All of.
I think is the first one.
Yes. All of the above. So,
yes.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Ba, 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 ba.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful.
Really dragging it out this week.
Beautiful.